All right, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize for the delay, but Vem, thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, it's a very busy day for you. You just hopped off the Alex Jones show and you're here. How's your day going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. I'm telling the story over and over again. But, I got to thank everybody out there for their support in terms of our definitely new media. I told a story about how I was supposed to be on Fox tonight, and they were saying that they wanted an exclusive. So, I said no to all the people, and I said that were asking me from the new media to come on today. And I honestly regret that, because after basically telling everybody, no, let's start on Tuesday because, Fox wants an exclusive, then I find out that the Fox network, their legal team, is scared to have me on, which is very ironic, by the way, because this sheriff that's been talking nonsense and lies about me has been on Fox around the clock. And if their legal department's so scared, I mean, this guy's saying verifiable untruths, verifiable lies that could get Fox sued, whereas my evidence is true and accurate, but they won't have me on Fox. So that's a very curious situation right there.
Here, I want to start with this. I want to start with an apology, because when we were driving home from church and my phone goes off, third assassin, and as I'm driving, I pull over and make a quick video. I'm like, someone's out, third assassin was stopped. I get home, it garnered a couple thousand views within like 20 minutes, and I read your name, and I'm like, wait. I go in my phone, I'm like, no. So I delete the video. And I make the second video. I'm like, this makes no sense. This is before this is when everyone was running. The dude is Trump wannabe assassin. Guy number 3 is here to kill Trump. So I deleted that video. I was like, wait. Don't believe anything. It makes zero sense. So here's the first one. I got there's 5 questions that everyone wants to know. First one, several IDs. I know the answer, but because I was just watching it on Alex Jones, but they say you had several IDs, several passports.
So the essence of that is a lie. The first thing that came out is I had 5 forms of ID. That's simply untrue. I have two passports. One is an American passport. One is a Canadian passport. The only reason I even have a Canadian passport is because I was born in Toronto, Canada, but I grew up in Los Angeles. So I've kept my Canadian passport because when I travel to certain places, especially as an investigative journalist, there are certain places that you just will do better with a Canadian passport, because we have enemies out there, that don't like Americans, that could cause harm to Americans. So having that option was always helpful whenever doing investigative journalism. It's really 2 passports. My Canadian passport bears my birth name. The U.S. passport I actually contacted the passport office in the early 2000s, notified them that I'm about to go into some war zones where my Christian Armenian last name would be a death sentence, right? And so I told them I want to change my last name just in case, I get hassled or whatever, because there are certain places, and these are, war zones where there's Muslim tribes still killing each other, where if you go out there and you say, I'm a Christian Armenian, there's a tradition of killing Christian Armenians, so that was a reason. And this is all documented, and if they had asked me, like, the insane thing about all this is, rather than going to assumptions, what an investigator does, or what a credible investigator does, is that they'll go and they'll do their research, they'll investigate, and they'll find out, what's going on here. And had they wanted to investigate, they could have called the State Department. There's definitely some kind of documentation, even though this was something 20-something years ago, that shows that I was concerned about traveling these war zones, and I was concerned of my safety. There was also multiple witnesses that saw me go into these places, because I wasn't by myself. I needed drivers. I needed access. Usually when you go to these locations, you have somebody on the ground that is there on your side, that has the know-how, that's able to take you through these territories in order for you not to make mistakes that could get you killed. And there was witnesses to this. So they could have easily found this stuff out had they decided to investigate, but that's not what they did. They jumped to conclusions automatically, and they tried to back it up with a bunch of lies. They said I had a $5,000 bond. There was no bond. They essentially gave me a ticket, misdemeanor, for frankly, unconstitutional gun laws in California, which I wasn't aware of. And those 2 specifically are that I had my mag loaded in my Glock. And just to be very clear, that Glock, since its purchase in 2022, has never been fired. I had a shotgun that's not loaded, and that shotgun has never even had a pellet or whatever. I can't even remember. What is it called? Around it doesn't even have a round ever put in there. It's never been fired, and that's easily verifiable by actually looking within the barrel. So it's not like I've ever used these. And the only reasons I even bought these after not owning a gun for a very long time is because I run something called the America Happens Network. And at the America Happens Network, we expose a lot of corruption. And we started, the America Happens Network has a history dating back to the early 2000s, which was a response to George W. Bush's, Patriot Act, and the war on terror and the war in Afghanistan, in Iraq, not Afghanistan. And so we started it back then, but in this latest rendition of the America Happens Network, we started producing, again, content that exposes corruption, goes after powerful individuals that are corrupt. And in 2022, I started getting death threats, both emailed to my house and also, emailed into my computers and also mailed to my house. One of them being Scrabble pieces that spelled out the word dead, right? And so knowing other individuals that have gone through this arc, I guess you could say, of going through after corrupt people and having their life threatened and then learning to carry firearms, I did the exact same thing. I bought firearms simply for my protection. And whenever I travel, I have these firearms in the back of my trunk, and pretty much they're lawful firearms.
And so you were mentioning in your video, you said that whenever you go to Trump rallies in Nevada, you come to the gate, you show them the GOP of Nevada pass, you work with them, they actually invite you to events. You tell them, I got firearms in my car, and they usually say, leave them in the car. That's cool. Here you said, look, guys, I got firearms in my car. Get out.
Yeah, basically. I told him I got firearms in the car. He asked me to pull over. I thought they were just going to ask me a couple of questions. The next thing I know, another police officer comes, says, get out of the car, sir. Turn around, and then he handcuffs me. He's saying he's doing it for safety, which is just like, so silly to me, because it's clear that I didn't have the firearms were in the back of the car. I mean, he could have easily taken a peripheral look, saw there was no firearms, there. He's actually got a firearm, by the way. So should I die for the back of the car? He'd have plenty of time to shoot me. But no, he wanted to handcuff me. And that's when really the bullying, harassment, unlawful seizure, unlawful search and seizure started. They asked me, could we just check out your guns, make sure the serial numbers match up with what's in the National Registry so we know you're lawfully purchased it. That's our only concern. And then you could go along your way. But when I gave them the right to actually retrieve my guns, instead what they did is they ransacked my car with 10 to 15 police officers, bomb sniffing dogs, going into my mufflers and swabbing it as if, there's some kind of dynamite hidden in the mufflers, opening up the hood, going through all my luggage, ransacking the entire thing, my clothing all over the place, my equipment all over the place. And lo and behold, they find absolutely nothing at the end of it. But nonetheless, this arresting officer, who I had heard made derogatory remarks against Trump people and against myself to a female officer, clearly showing that there was some kind of agenda there in terms of my politics and the tortures he wanted to put me through just to make me suffer because I'm a Trump supporter, comes back to me and he says, we're arresting you anyways. You know what I mean? And he basically arrested me for a misdemeanor. There was no bail whatsoever. Then at this juncture, he takes me to an RV where the Secret Service and FBI are. I see him get out of the car, and I'm sitting in the back of the police car, looking through this mesh, seeing him talking to about 5 or 6 gentlemen that were either FBI or Secret Service. And I could see that these guys are disinterested in it. I could see that he was trying to pitch him something for an agenda that he had, as opposed to really just telling him a story. It's like, had I said that I wanted to, hurt anybody like they've put out there, he would have shown the body cam footage, right? He had to show evidence. But whatever he was saying was not flying with these guys. Then he comes back in the police car, says, they're going to talk to you at the police station. So we're going to go to a police station. So now he takes me to a police station. And I'm waiting there. The Secret Service and FBI come in there. They have a 25-minute conversation with this gentleman. Then they approach me. And by the way, this entire time I've been asking for my one phone call, and this officer, the arresting officer, has refused to give me my one phone call. So when the Secret Service and FBI come up to me, they say, do you mind if we ask you some questions? I say, sure, I'd love to answer your questions. But first, I would like to do my one phone call. And how about this? What if I call my lawyer for my one phone call? And you could hear me tell the entire story. So I don't have to tell this very traumatic and disturbing story twice. You could just listen to it, and then once I'm done with the call and I've updated my lawyer, then you could ask me any questions that you want. They say, okay, thank you, sir. Then they walk away again with this arresting officer. Then the arresting officer comes back about 10, 15 minutes later, and he has a downtrodden look on his face. I could tell that he was very disappointed by what happened in that room. And he walks back up to me, and he says, they don't want to interview you, which I found very, they're fine. They just want us to take over. And that's that would never happen if they had an assassin at hand, even if they were suspecting me, even if they had 1% suspicion that what this officer was saying is true, they would not do that. They would have to interrogate me. They'd have to question me. But nonetheless, this police officer takes me to the prison. They take my fingerprints. They mugshot me. And which, I thought was very interesting. It seems, and I mentioned this in my video that I put out there, where it seems as though if you don't have a mugshot in this country, you're probably not doing the right thing at this point, So then, they take me inside the jail cell, and still don't have my phone call. There's a phone in the jail cell. I try to use that phone. It's broken. I try to notify them that the phone's broken, and it's radio silent. So after 6 hours of being in that jail cell prison, they let me go around 1:30 in the morning of October 13th, but they still confiscated all my equipment, my truck, unlawful search and seizure, and they told me that the earliest I might be able to get my stuff back, and they're still being iffy about it. And we're talking about at least $250,000 worth of equipment and intellectual property within that car is going to be Tuesday. And even then, it seems as though they're putting a lot of hurdles. And it just seems as though this entire thing was geared towards causing me suffering. They say the process is the punishment, and that's exactly what they're doing right now.
What's up with the license plate?
The license plate is
license plates.
You know how you know the license plate is nonsense is because I have a ticket, and actually if I could I could step away and bring it. That's not even a cited thing on the ticket they gave me. So the point I'm trying to make is that if there was an issue with a fake license plate, right, and if there was a law that said fake license plates are illegal, or if they suspected this was a fake license plate, wouldn't that be something that's cited on the actual ticket? And for anybody that's curious, I've actually made a video that's on AmericaHappens.com. It's the second video in the featured section where I actually hold up the ticket so you guys could see what's on there. And what's on there is these two unconstitutional citations that, and it's simply because I wasn't aware that I had a mag loaded in the Glock, whereas in California, you have to have the mag and the gun separated, which I did not know. The second thing I didn't know about was the fact that I had a mag that had 2 lines of bullets as opposed to 1 line. Truly, I'm like a kindergarten kid when it comes to guns. I've never even fired these guns. I've never fired a gun. The only reason these guns were purchased is because when we started doing exposés at the America Happens Network, I started getting death threats. And so I felt it was important to have a gun to protect myself just in case, right? So, that's the background of that story.
Congratulations. I believe you're going to be a rich man when this is done. Another thing is, I want to point out this. I was watching the press conference this morning that sheriff had. Mm-hmm. He was angry. I don't know if you noticed, but he was yelling at the reporters. How can you question? Pretty much the way he was wording it is, you guys are questioning the report, and there are some reports from the right wing saying that we're lying. No, this guy, believe us, he was here to kill Trump. And my next question is, if that's true, $5,000 bond, but now you're saying they can't even prove that there was a bond. There was no bond.
No, there was no bond. It's a lie. It's a flat out lie. There was no bond. Let him produce evidence of this. There is no bond. It was a ticket.
So what's your next step?
I mean, we're going to have a massive lawsuit. This sheriff, who apparently has aspirations for being governor, I believe, tried to use me as a tool to seem like some kind of hero. He got a little bit too excited. I think that presents a level of immaturity that shows him to be completely unqualified to be a governor, and frankly, completely unqualified to be a sheriff, because this started off with him starting a few $1 million liability by the unlawful arrest and the false accusations. The minute this went viral, and essentially they Kyle Rittenhouse me, where I'm now forever known online, and some people will never believe that I am innocent and these are all lies. So now I got to spend the rest of my life with these false accusations, and we know what the price tag to that is, and it's probably in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, I was shopping today, and it's kind of funny, Vlad, because, you know, I'm watching people, you know, with their cell phones walk around, and you know, they kind of look down at their cell phones, and then they kind of look at me, and then they look down, they look at me, and I'm like, dude, did I just become like, you know, Dr. Kimball from The Fugitive and stuff? That's what it felt like, you know, when in that movie where Dr. Kimball's going around and people are recognizing him, and he's trying to cover his face all the time. So, I mean, it's a little horrifying that I have to, you know, deal with this now. I have to deal with this. And it's also horrifying that, you know, there might be nut jobs out there that believe that I was actually there to harm the president, and they might want to harm me as retribution to that. You know what I mean? So this guy's put my life at risk. This guy's destroyed my reputation. Globally, I've been defamed. I'm finding this news all throughout Europe, on the BBC, on French channels, on Russian channels. You know what I mean? So they kind of carpet bomb my life and reputation. So the only thing you could do in that kind of a situation is basically use all lawful resources pretty much to sue them, you know, to all extents. But that is something, you know, and I've never been about the money. That is something that is nice. What is essential right now is this department needs to be investigated. We need to understand, what are they doing that these individuals that are clearly incompetent, that are clearly almost like childlike and emotional, and definitely don't understand the law. Like, I shouldn't understand the law better than the sheriff, but I do. And that's the sad part. So what are they doing when they're hiring these individuals? That is the wrong route, because certainly they're not hiring qualified individuals. You know, one other thing that comes to mind is I recently saw some video of Putin's bodyguards, you know, shooting, and this dude was like John Wick. He got 3 shots off. It was the most amazing thing. You don't even see his hands move, right? He makes a shot like this, he makes a shot like that, and he makes a shot like that. You don't even see his hands move, but he hits the target every single time. And these are Putin's bodyguards, right? Then you look at our bodyguards, and it's like Ethel Merman trying to protect the president of the United States, because we have to be like, you know, DEI woke and put our lives at risk. So a bunch of, like, you know, skewed woke people could feel good about the hiring. And that's what's happening in our country. That is exactly the issue in this police department. I'm not saying this is a woke sheriff, but whatever they're doing in the process of bringing these people into power is obviously not working right now.
Well, he's either a woke sheriff or a joke sheriff. That's for sure. Yeah. Here's another one. So they lied about the license plate. They lied about the IDs. They lied about the bond. They said that you verbally told them, I'm here to kill the president. No. And you know what? That's the sort of thing that if you're going to spread ridiculous rumors like that, by the way, add another $100 million to the lawsuit for that ridiculous statement. But, you know, if I said that, there was police officers everywhere, body cams everywhere, produce a body cam that shows that I threatened to do that. Everything they've said has no evidence behind it. So this is like, I mean, it's so unhinged that, I mean, that whole department needs to be investigated top to bottom, because they're putting people's lives, reputations at risk. And by the way, while they're messing around me, I had 15 officers looking at my car, and I'm like, dude, this would be the perfect time for a real assassin to come through, because all their attention is on me. You know, so think about that. Think about the immaturity that then leads to serious liability. That made, if they really are, you know, woke Southern California Trump hating sheriffs, and they're like, maybe if there's a possibility a real one's in there, let's kind of cause a scene over here, you know. But again, speculations. But have any attorneys been contacting you yet?
Yeah.
They're probably like, let us take your case. We got you.
I mean, they know whoever gets on this lawsuit, you know, is going to, you know, especially if they go on a contingency basis, they're going to make ungodly amounts of money. It's like definitely one, you know, I don't know how this happened, Vlad, man. It's like yesterday I was, you know, or a few days ago, I was just minding my business, trying to create media and stuff. I don't know how I became this person. Now, you know, we're having these major lawsuits. I think these lawsuits are going to lead to the correct kind of things happening, like investigations into corrupt officials. It's going to set a new paradigm. All good things, by the way, all good things. And that's what I see. You know, I mean, it hasn't been an easy thing to experience. I'm certainly seeing the silver lining. I'm certainly seeing, you know, I'm a devout Christian. I follow in the footsteps of Christ, and I'm certainly seeing the work of God. This could have happened to somebody else. I think somebody else might have backed down and disappeared and, you know, flown off to Mexico and just try to kind of like get away from this nonsense. My experiences, my education, my personality, I just happen to be the type of person that goes, you know, headfirst into danger, you know, from a very young age. You know, I look at like somebody like a James O'Keefe with him Line in the Sand, by the way, brilliant documentary with him putting his life in danger, going into cartel land to document the illegal border invasion that is happening. And there's some of us that get a thrill from that sort of thing. There's some of us that are the type of folks that run into burning buildings, and that's unfortunately the kind of person they just picked upon.
I see a lot of new people came in. I'm just going to answer. Did you bring loaded firearms to the rally? No, they were not loaded, but they were firearms for the people that came in late. He explained the fake IDs. He was born in Canada, lives in the United States. He's got a Canadian passport. He's got an American passport. That's all they found. There was no $5,000 bond. They just let him go with misdemeanor charges. There is no fake license plates. He never said he was coming to kill the police, to kill the president. He's saying release the footage. And for me, the biggest thing is today's press conference. The sheriff was red. I mean, he was yelling. He's like, how dare you question what we're telling you? And some reporter is like, well, if he was really here to do what you're saying he's here to do, how is he out on $5,000? And then he actually says on a $5,000 bond, all you need is $500 and you go home. And it's ridiculous. But you know, like you say, you know, Christian, God works in mysterious ways. Well, hey, maybe this is one of, you know, you never know what God can do. You know, I was actually talking to a New York Times reporter, did a story about, you know, election integrity, and did a little story about me. And we ran into each other at a place where Latinx are, you know, registering voters, and I'm like, you know, how do I register? They're like, you need an ID. And I'm like, what if I'm not a citizen? And this is their quote. You can't get an Arizona ID or driver's license unless you're a citizen. So there's this big article, but guess what's missing? Their quote, their lie quote.
Wow.
So, you know, they will shift things. They will lie. Yeah. Brother, well, thank you so much. If you got anything else you want to tell the audience.
Well, I find it very interesting that sheriff's acting all angry. I mean, for somebody of that temperament to be like, why the hell aren't you just believing me because I said it so? I mean, man, that sounds like some authoritarian nonsense. That's the way dictators behave, that you just got to listen to me because I'm a person of power. The way we operated in this country is lawfully based upon our constitutional rights, based upon evidence, based upon things like preponderance of evidence, civil threshold for evidence, criminal threshold for evidence. I know these things, you know, and there's percentage points of how much evidence you need to have in order to validate your position. And the fact that this guy thinks he has to have none of that, but nonetheless, all the media has to listen to what he says. I mean, look, I hope he has a really good time as an Uber driver after this is all done, because really, I mean, he should never hold any position of power again.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It was in, and you know, like you know everyone. You know people in Trump's team. You were not just a attendee. You were an invite. Like the Trump campaign invites you to all the rallies.
Yeah. I ran for office in 2022 as a MAGA type candidate. You know, a lot of my policies were very similar. I've been around Trump a lot, dating back to 1998. By the way, have met him in person. So, you know, if I had nefarious ideas, there was certainly many opportunities, but that's never been my thing. Like, I actually deeply admire that man. And I was on Alex Jones right now, really crediting people like Donald Trump and Alex Jones that have had the courage to stand up and fight really this tyrannical thing that is happening in our country, and take hits for it, and be shot at for it, and be lost, go through lawfare for it, and try to be driven to bankruptcy. And nonetheless, they keep fighting. And so I have nothing but deep admiration. If somebody were to shoot at the president, I would dive in front of that bullet. And that's not a statement I can make for a lot of people, because I feel that myself, in terms of my talents and my ability, I am valuable to have out there, because I could do a lot due to the hard work that I've put in across the last 30 years in the media game. So I see myself as very valuable in this fight for truth. But if somebody were to ever try to harm the president, I would be the first one to put my life on the line to protect him, because I deeply admire him. And frankly, he's been like a mentor of sorts, just by the way he conducts himself and the courage that he's had. In order for me to have courage, and as a Hollywood guy, a guy that was in the mainstream media, I had to kind of, quote unquote, come out of the closet. I had to come out and basically sacrifice like huge salaries, very good salaries in the mainstream media, creating shows and content and running development for networks to do what we're doing right here, right? And the reason I was inspired to do that is because of individuals like Donald Trump, individuals like Alex Jones, that have been putting up the fight, because, the way people have been really prostitutes for money is actually ridiculous. I got to tell you, like, now that I've been doing this work for the last few years, I feel more fulfilled as an individual than I ever did as a, kind of hotshot Hollywood producer guy. And people don't take that into consideration. I think they make money, everything, and then they wonder why they're miserable, why they feel hollow, why they got to get on antidepressants. And I'm fortunate to have really seen the light and not gone down that road that I could have been going down, because that was the path I was on since 1992.
Now, brother, final question. It's election. No, it's November 5th. What do you see? What do you think is going to happen?
See, due to my work as an investigative journalist, I almost have too much information on this topic. I know 100% they're going to try to steal it. I'm part of a situation that I cannot speak about right now in terms of having privileged knowledge about that topic. And there are people working, behind the scenes, good guys and bad guys, to, win that election. And I do believe eventually the right thing will happen. It might not happen the way we thought it was going to happen, but certainly I think there's pending surprises coming down the pipeline. Let me just put it that way. And I do believe that come January 20th, we will have President Trump in office, even though it might happen in a very unorthodox fashion.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. Where can people find you, follow you, see your work?
Yeah, AmericaHappens.com, or on Twitter, it's at AmericaHappens1, the number 1. My Twitter is at NotVemMiller, NOTVM Miller. Also, my business partner, Mindy Robinson, is at iHeartMindy. And definitely check out some of the documentaries we have. I highly recommend people watch the Bundy versus Deep State, and just kind of check out all our featured videos that are on the main page of America Happens. And please do subscribe to us. And thank you very much for your time, brother.
Thank you, brother. God bless you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Boom.